Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Jordan Seidhom and Chris Melton? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Hurricane Helene struck the southeastern United States on September 26, 2024. It made landfall in Florida and continued inland. The storm caused a phenomenal level of flooding, especially in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. Over 230 people died in the hurricane. It became the deadliest hurricane to make landfall on the United States mainland since Katrina in 2005. Most of the fatalities occurred in North Carolina. Usually, residents of inland mountain communities in the state are fairly safe from hurricanes, but Helene was different. It was fast-moving and carried warm, moist air over a long distance. The rainfall made creeks and rivers swell. The water hit soil that was saturated and flowed downhill with a tremendous amount of force. It brought boulders, trees, houses, asphalt, and automobiles along with it down the slopes of the mountains. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. Mike and Susan Coffey were among the many people affected by Hurricane Helene. They lived in a mountainside home along the Broad River in Lake Lure, North Carolina. This town of 1,600 people is located 92 miles west of Charlotte. On Thursday, September 26, 2024, Helene overwhelmed Lake Lure with chaos and destruction. After hearing frightening rumbling noises, Mike and Susan grabbed their cat, 2 bottles of water, and a bag of potato chips before making their way outside. They climbed in their vehicles, drove up their driveway, and parked in the cul-de-sac against the side of the mountain. Their position was about 30 feet higher than their house. From this vantage point, the couple watched in horror as their house and a few of their neighbors' houses were washed off the mountain and into the river. The couple spent Thursday night in one of their vehicles. On Friday morning, September 27, they looked around, saw the widespread destruction, and realized their situation was dire. In a nearby house, which was under construction, there was a pickup truck with a cooler in the back of the cab. It contained some water, cranberry juice, and Mountain Dew. Despite this fortuitous find, by Friday night, Mike and Susan were out of water. Undoubtedly, the couple contemplated their available options. They could dehydrate and die a horrible and agonizing death, or drink the Mountain Dew. So, no easy choice. They had trouble getting cell phone service due to the damage caused by the hurricane, but they did manage to reach a friend and instruct them to contact emergency services. Mike and Susan spent Friday night in their vehicle. On Saturday, September 28, the couple could hear helicopters flying overhead. Every time they heard one, they would run out and wave in an effort to capture the attention of the crew. To increase their chances of detection, they constructed an SOS sign in the cul-de-sac using rocks. 2 members of the Lake Lure Fire Department hiked into the area and made contact with Mike and Susan. The emergency responders informed the couple that a helicopter would be coming to rescue them. Later, the couple saw what appeared to be a National Guard helicopter, but it was too big to land. Multiple other helicopters flew overhead, but none stopped for the couple. Emergency personnel did not know how long it would take for Mike and Susan to be rescued. The couple spent Saturday night in their vehicle and continued to wait. On the morning of Sunday, September 29, 2024, the couple saw a small black helicopter and waved to the crew. The helicopter was a 1995 Robinson R-44. This 4-seat, low-cost, lightweight helicopter is popular with private pilots. This particular Robinson R-44 was owned and piloted by a man named Jordan Seidhom. Jordan's son Landon was the co-pilot. Jordan owned a steel recycling business in Pageland, South Carolina, which is about 141 miles east of Lake Lure, North Carolina. Jordan was a reserve law enforcement officer and a volunteer firefighter. After the hurricane hit, Jordan decided to use his helicopter, at his own expense, to assist people who were in trouble. He delivered food and water, and, one day earlier, he rescued 4 people from the side of a mountain. When Jordan saw Mike and Susan waving for help, he landed his helicopter at the end of their driveway. He told the couple that there was a command post about 3 minutes away, and he could take them there. The unknown stability of the driveway Jordan landed on made the weight of the helicopter a concern. Jordan decided to transport them one at a time to the command post. Susan would go first. Jordan's son Landon stayed behind with Mike as Susan climbed into the helicopter. Jordan flew to a parking lot at Boys Camp Road and Memorial Highway, where firefighters, police officers, and members of the National Guard had gathered. After exiting his helicopter, he encountered firefighters who were there from Michigan. These men supplied Jordan with radio frequencies, which would allow him to communicate. They also started to set up a landing zone so he could bring more people to the command post. Not everybody at the command post was as welcoming as these Michigan firefighters. Jordan said that a man named Chris Melton approached him. Chris was the assistant chief of Lake Lure Fire and Emergency Management. According to Jordan, Chris ordered him to leave the area or he would have him arrested. Technically, as an assistant chief, Chris did have the authority to place Jordan under arrest, even though getting a conviction would have been extremely unlikely. Jordan was there to save people's lives and was happy to coordinate with other rescuers, but that was not good enough for Chris. According to Susan, who overheard some of the conversation, Chris told Jordan something like, "This is our mission, this is our operation, and we can't just have you flying in and out." Jordan explained the situation and mentioned how Mike and Landon were still on the mountainside. He offered to get Mike, bring him to the command post, then get his son, and leave the area. Chris was not happy with this solution. He wanted Jordan out of the area immediately. He didn't even want him to pick up his son. Jordan explained that he was going to go back and get his son. Chris threatened Jordan, saying, "If you turn around and go back up the mountain, you're going to be arrested." Jordan responded, "I'm going to get my co-pilot. I don't know what to tell you. I'm letting you know." Chris signaled for 2 police officers to come over and repeated that Jordan would be arrested if he went back up the mountain. Jordan tried to reason with him, but Chris insisted that he needed to leave the area. As Jordan was returning to his helicopter, the first people he spoke to after landing, the firefighters from Michigan, approached him. They told him that they could not tell him to get Mike, but if he came back with Mike, they would have a designated landing spot ready for him and make sure the others did not come over. Presumably, they were referring to Chris and the police officers. Despite this reassurance, Jordan was understandably worried about being arrested. He went back up the mountain and landed next to Mike and his son. Jordan told Mike that he could not rescue him because he had been threatened with arrest. He was sorry, but he needed to take his son and leave. Jordan explained how the other first responders were aware of where Mike was, and his rescue was imminent. Landon climbed in the helicopter, and Jordan lifted off. He returned to Pageland, South Carolina. Mike took his cat, who was in the cat carrier, and made his way down the mountainside. He encountered rescuers who helped him cross the river and took him to a shuttle. Mike was reunited with his wife Susan. The FAA imposed a temporary flight restriction in Lake Lure a half hour after the confrontation between Jordan and Chris. This makes it seem like Chris must have contacted them. Later, incident commanders requested the assistance of private helicopter pilots. On Monday, September 30, the flight restriction was lifted, and Jordan returned to the area and conducted rescue operations. Civilian pilots rescued over 200 people and delivered much-needed supplies. The behavior of Chris Melton has caused an extraordinary amount of outrage among the public. People were anxious to talk to him, but he did not respond to repeated requests by the media to set up an interview. Instead, the Lake Lure town manager, Olivia Stuman, spoke to a reporter on October 3, 2024. During this interview, Olivia defended the actions of Chris Melton. She said the personal aircraft was unauthorized and gave no notification they were coming. This posed a potential risk to ongoing operations with search and rescue. It was not safe for them to be there as regular citizens, especially because they did not know who they were or what they were doing there. Any aircraft should have gone through incident command. Olivia was informed that Jordan did communicate and coordinate. For example, he purchased fuel for his helicopter at Rutherford Airport. At this time, the airport was only selling fuel to pilots who were engaging in search and rescue operations. And when Jordan landed at the command post, he told the rescuers what he was doing. Some of them were happy that he was there, like the firefighters from Michigan. Olivia responded by saying Jordan should have communicated with incident command. When pressed about how someone would do that, like where was the information about incident command published, Olivia responded, "I'm unaware of that." So Jordan was supposed to communicate with incident command when even the Lake Lure town manager did not know how to contact them. Toward the end of the interview, Olivia asked for people to have compassion and consideration because this situation was making it worse. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Many people believe that Jordan Seidhom was a hero. For example, Mike Coffey said, quote, "He got my wife at his own cost, at a risk to himself. He was the one person who actually stopped to help just because he could. I mean, he got in his helicopter and flew up there just because he knew he could make a difference to someone, and he did. He's a hero," unquote. It seems clear that Mike's assessment of Jordan is accurate. The hurricane caused immense devastation and left many people in danger. Jordan and his son acted courageously when they rescued victims. The operation of the helicopter was in accordance with the law. There were no flight restrictions in place prior to the confrontation between Jordan and Chris. Item number 2. One day after being threatened with arrest, Jordan told the media, quote, "I'm sorry. If I had to do it over again, I would have stopped and I would have rescued as many people until they decided they were going to arrest me," unquote. It is easy to understand why Jordan feels guilty, but logically, he should not. Chris Melton is the one who created this problem, and he put Jordan in an impossible position. If Jordan picked up Mike and brought him back to the command post, Chris could have arrested him, which would have left Jordan's son stranded on the mountainside. Jordan really didn't have much of a choice. I guess he could have brought Mike down to a different location, but then Mike and Susan would have still been separated. Furthermore, Jordan could have still been arrested even if he did not go back to the command post. There was really no way for Jordan to win in this situation. Item number 3. At one point during Olivia's online interview with the media, a man opened the door to the room where Olivia was at her computer. He immediately closed the door after being waved off by another woman. The man looked like Chris Melton. This is curious considering how he was not available for an interview. Item number 4. Should Chris Melton and Olivia Steumann be fired? In my opinion, it is clear that both of these people should be fired. Chris Melton interfered with a rescue operation by threatening to arrest someone who was assisting. Jordan was lawfully operating a privately owned helicopter, and he coordinated with other first responders. One day after being threatened with arrest, Jordan and other civilian pilots were back in the area at the request of incident commanders. Clearly, the services of these pilots were necessary, and rescuers wanted them there. As far as Olivia Steumann, her interview with the media indicated that she does not have the ability to think logically, and she is unwilling to take a stand for what is right. Instead of being honest about the failure of Chris Melton, she doubled down on his nonsense. It's worrisome that Chris and Olivia are in positions of power. Now moving to my final item, number 5. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Assistant Chief Chris Melton was on a power trip after the hurricane. His behavior was grandiose, arrogant, condescending, impulsive, irresponsible, petty, and immature. Instead of having compassion for victims, he viewed the hurricane as his big chance to shine and prove to his colleagues that he was a tough guy. Chris found a way to make the disaster about himself. When it came time to accept responsibility and apologize, Chris hid from the media. The town manager unwisely defended him, but only managed to dig a deeper hole. Due to Chris Melton's egregious behavior, courageous volunteers, like civilian helicopter pilots, may be reluctant to come forward and help during disasters, knowing that they might be harassed and threatened. Chris made every victim of a natural disaster a little less safe. Those are my thoughts in the case of Jordan Seidhom and Chris Melton. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.